Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive, where we take these super specialized source materials, pull out the most valuable stuff, and deliver the actionable knowledge right to you. Today we're navigating the choppy waters of dependency management, and we're doing it in a big programming ecosystem. Haskell.
No.
If you've ever hit a technical roadblock that just stops your project cold, I mean, the kind that makes you wonder why you even started coding, you know this pain. Our mission today is all about developer pragmatism. It's about taking these really specific, frustrating error messages and turning them into a clean, durable configuration that just works every time.
Exactly. And we're diving into a great set of sources for this, specifically Notes on Haskell Programming, Part 16. It's shared by an author who, I love this, calls himself Ang, an old software plumber.
A plumber, right?
Yeah, and these aren't just dry instructions. These are, the battle-tested, real-world notes from someone who actually solved a really technical conflict and then shared the precise steps.
And the conflict, it's all about getting a specific code formatter, Fourmolu, to play nice with the standard Haskell build environment, which is called Stack.
Right, particularly with its stable snapshots or LTS releases.
So our whole goal here is to find the most robust, the most repeatable way to install this tool, all while dodging those dreaded dependency conflicts that, they plague any complex system.
And to really appreciate the solution, we have to first understand what these tools are even for. In, modern software development, code formatters are basically non-negotiable. Tools like the original Fourmolu, or the one we'll focus on, Fourmolu, they exist to enforce just total consistency. They handle all the spacing, the indentation, the structure. It means even if 50 different developers write code, it all looks like it was written by one highly disciplined machine.
And for that, Haskell developers often use Stack. For anyone listening who might not be deep in the Haskell world, Stack is what? The powerful package manager.
It is, but its main feature, its core feature, is the use of LTS, or long-term support snapshots. That's a really key concept here. Think of an LTS snapshot as a meticulously vetted contract. It's this huge bundle of specific versions of every package in the ecosystem that's been proven to work together without conflict.
A contract, I like that.
Stack commits to that contract to guarantee stable builds. So, for example, LTS 24.25 isn't just a number. It's a specific agreement covering hundreds of libraries.
It sounds totally foolproof. Stack is designed to prevent chaos, but Ang still hit this major wall just trying to install the original Fourmolu formatter. What went wrong?
Well, friction is, it's inevitable even in these highly managed systems. The specific roadblock he ran into was the notorious stack error.
S4804, okay.
And this happened because while the current LTS snapshot guaranteed stability for most packages, the formatter Fourmolu, it needed a slightly newer version of a fundamental library than what the LTS contract provided.
Ah, okay, so it's like trying to run a brand new app on an otherwise stable but older operating system. The whole system works perfectly until that one new requirement just throws a wrench in the works.
That's the perfect analogy. And the wrench here was a package called Cabal-syntax. It's a library responsible for parsing all the build instructions for understanding package dependencies.
Okay.
The version of Fourmolu Ang demanded a version of Cabal-syntax that was just newer than the one bundled in that ELTS 24.25 snapshot. So that S4804 error, that's just Stack's way of saying, look, I can't do this without breaking the stability contract for this entire LTS environment.
Now, in the previous notes, the author mentioned a temporary fix.
Yeah.
They got it running by upgrading Cabal-syntax in the global stack configuration. Why is that a bad idea in the long run?
It's such an essential lesson in software engineering. It's about prioritizing system stability over, immediate convenience. When you globally modify a core dependency like Cabal-syntax, sure, you might fix the problem for your one project.
Right.
But you corrupt the stability promise of the entire LTS snapshot for every other project on your machine that relies on that same snapshot.
Whoa, okay. So if I have 10 different Haskell projects and they all use ELTS 24.25 and I globally bump one little dependency for project A, I could accidentally cause these subtle, impossible to debug failures in all the other 9 projects.
Precisely. Just because they expect the original, older version of that library, you've broken the fundamental promise of the LTS, that it's a known, safe configuration.
You're sacrificing portability, repeatability, everything.
Exactly. It's not the plumber's approach to building robust systems. And Ang, he immediately knew he needed to find a way to localize that fix.
And this realization, this is where the journey gets really interesting. Because the search for that better, that more portable fix, it led him to a different tool entirely, Fourmolu. And this wasn't just about solving a dependency issue, it was an upgrade.
That's right. Fourmolu is technically a fork of Ormolu. A fork, just means it started with the same source code, but a different team decided to take it in a slightly new direction.
A different path.
And while it has all the core formatting power, Fourmolu includes features, and this is critical, that the standard Ormolu does not.
Like what? What's the killer feature that made it worth switching?
Configuration control.
Okay.
The Haskell community can have some passionate debates over style.
I can imagine.
Especially indentation. Ormolu often imposes these really strict, non-negotiable style choices, like a two-space standard. Fourmolu, being a fork, was specifically designed to support custom configuration files. It lets developers set preferences like, say, 4-space indentation if that's their team's standard.
So Ang finds a tool that's not only powerful, but also more flexible. And, crucially, he figures out how to install it without that system-broken global change. This is the core takeaway for you, the listener. It's this elegant shift from a global fix to a project-isolated one.
Yes. The definitive solution is all about modifying the local project's stack.yaml file. That file, it acts as the specific instruction manual for Stack, but only when it's building this one project.
Just this one.
Just this one. By defining the adjustments there, we make sure the rest of the system stays pristine, while this single project gets exactly what it needs.
This is the actionable nugget we promised. So if you're a developer hitting that S4804, or really any dependency conflict in Stack, this is the recipe. You're telling Stack, hey, stick to the rulebook, but make one tiny strategic exception just for this build.
Okay, let's break down the exact lines you need in that stack.yaml file. First, you make sure you're still referencing your stable foundation.
The LTS snapshot.
Right, so you'll have snapshot, LTS 24.25, that keeps the general contract. Then packages, which just tells Stack you're talking about the current local project.
Simple enough.
And then comes the magic. The crucial part that acts as the surgical override. It's the extra deps block. This is where we tell Stack to use a newer version of that conflicting package, but only for this project's build.
And the specific version needed to fix that Cabal-syntax conflict is right here in the notes.
It is. It's extra deps. Cabal-syntax 3.14.2.0.
Okay, so what is happening under the hood here? What is Stack actually doing?
It's actually fascinating. The build system first looks at the LTS snapshot, and it sees, let's say, version 3.0 of Cabal-syntax. Then it reads your local stack.yaml and sees that extra deps override.
So it sees the conflict.
It sees the instruction. It doesn't throw out the whole snapshot. It simply downloads and uses the specified 3.14 version on top of the existing environment just for the Fourmolu installation. It's an elegant, localized dependency overlay.
That idea of an overlay is so critical. You keep the integrity of the foundational LTS promise, but you still get the flexibility you need for modern tools.
Exactly.
So once that stack.yaml file is updated, what's the command to actually, bring the formatter to life?
The installation becomes trivial at that point, because Stack now knows how to solve the conflict. You just run dstack install Fourmolu.
It just works.
It just works. Stack reads the new instructions, does the localized override, and installs the formatter.
Okay, so the tool's installed. Now, the next step is usually customization, right?
Yeah.
Generating that Fourmolu.yaml file to define your style rules. The command for that is also in the notes.
It is. Fourmolu print defaults, Fourmolu.yamln. But, and this is a piece of wisdom from Ang that I think is so valuable, especially for developers just starting out with formatters.
Okay.
After going to all this trouble to get a customizable tool, Ang's strong recommendation is to actually stick with the default settings.
Wait, really?
Yes, unless you have a specific, undeniable, and justifiable reason to change them.
That's a surprising turn. I mean, if the whole point of the tool is custom configuration, why tell people to just use the standard settings?
Because conformity minimizes cognitive load. When you choose default standards, you eliminate an entire class of arguments in code reviews. You make it easier for new people to join the project.
I see.
Ang is implicitly arguing that the time you save by just automating formatting to a known standard is way more valuable than the control you get by tweaking a few spaces here and there. It's the philosophy of least necessary resistance.
That makes perfect sense. It's the difference between elegant plumbing that just works and, I don't know, Rube Goldberg plumbing that keeps bringing leaks.
And that brings us right back to the author. The whole identity of Ang, an old software plumber, it speaks volumes about the pragmatic nature of this knowledge. A plumber is someone who fixes systems, who knows which fittings are stable and which ones are going to leak again. They value that hands-on, evolved knowledge.
Yeah, this isn't some theoretical code poetry. It's an iterative journal. The title itself continues from my previous post, tells you this solution wasn't found in a textbook. It was hammered out through trial and error, which is the most valuable kind of technical knowledge you can share.
And what really ties Eng's work back to our target learner, perpetually curious, is just the sheer breadth of their interests. It shows this unified, meticulous approach to learning everything.
Absolutely. The author isn't just a Haskell expert. They have these rigorous, long-running journals on completely different languages like Python, Go, and Rust. But that deep dive mentality, it doesn't just stop at the command line.
Not at all. It extends to Notes on Gardening, which is running well into its 700th part. Detailing things like soil composition and specific plant care.
Wow.
You see the same meticulous focus applied to notes on fish keeping, notes on photography, and so on. The exact same discipline you need to track down a subdependency error is the same one you apply to understanding the pH balance of a fish tank.
It just shows that the best problem solvers aren't defined by one language or one domain. They're defined by their commitment to systematic investigation. That's the heart of engineering, whether it's structural or biological.
And finally, this entire contribution, it's framed within the spirit of the open source community. Eng explicitly lists support for organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Free Software Foundation, the Tor Project, Wikipedia.
The big ones.
Yeah, so this isn't just a guide, it's an active contribution. It's making sure these practical solutions are free and available to anyone who needs them. It reinforces that whole ethos that knowledge should be shared to benefit all systems, not just one.
So let's wrap up the core lesson from this deep dive. When you're facing a dependency conflict in an environment like Stack, where stability relies on these rigid LTS snapshots, the worst thing you can do is a quick, risky fix that contaminates your whole system.
The professional solution is isolation. By isolating the problem to the project level specifically, using that extra deps block in your local stack.yaml file, you surgically insert the required dependency override, like Cabal-syntax 3.14.2.0. You maintain system integrity while getting the local functionality you need.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Even if you never write a single line of Haskell, the ability to properly manage dependencies and to really get the difference between a local project fix and a global system alteration, that is the defining skill of a robust engineer.
It really is. It's a universal principle. It scales across every modern programming ecosystem, from configuring NTM packages in JavaScript to managing crates in Rust. It's the difference between building a sandcastle and building a cathedral.
A great way to put it.
And finally, we'll leave you with this provocative thought, and it comes right from Eng's final piece of advice. The fact that developers went to the enormous trouble of forking a formatter creating Fourmolu just to gain control over a small detail, only for the expert advice to be stick to the defaults. It raises a fascinating question, a question about community standards. In our pursuit of custom control, are we sometimes prioritizing aesthetic preference over universal consistency, especially when we're building shared systems? Is the most elegant fix more often than not just accepting the standard the tool was built to provide in the first place?
Something to mull over the next time you open a configuration file. A truly great question to close on. Thank you for sharing your sources and letting us dive into the nuanced world of software plumbing today.
Until next time, keep those pipelines clean.